Good afternoon to all participants in the online public hearing organized by the Independent Evaluation Commission for assessing the integrity of candidates for the position of member in the self-administration bodies of judges and prosecutors pursuant to law number 26/2022. I hereby declare this session open. This hearing involves the resumed evaluation of Mrs. Ecaterina Buzu, candidate for the Superior Council of Magistracy and judge at Orhei Court. I would like to welcome you, Mrs. Buzu. We are here to conduct an online public hearing. We are here to conduct an online public hearing in the context of the resumed evaluation process aimed at assessing candidates for the position of the Superior Council of Magistracy. The Commission is acting in accordance with law number 26/2022 and its rules of procedure. On the screen in front of you, you have the 5 members of the Commission, and these are Victoria Henley, Nadezhda Ryabchevsky, Tatiana Raducanu, Nona Tsipsoria, and myself, Herman van Hebel, the Chair of the Commission. The Commission is also assisted by members of the Secretariat, and the online public hearing can also be followed by representatives of the media and the public. During the hearing, interpretation between Romanian and English will be provided. To allow for accurate interpretation, I would kindly ask you to speak clearly and slowly. Furthermore, the proceedings are being recorded and the public parts will be available online, generally within 24 hours after the hearing via the website of the Commission, www.vetting.md. I will start with a brief overview of the procedural background of this resumed evaluation. On 4 January 2023, the Commission issued a decision in relation to your integrity evaluation for the position of member in the Superior Council of Magistracy. In its decision, the Commission decided that it had serious doubts about your compliance with the criterion of financial and/or ethical and integrity in relation to 2 issues. Issue number 1 was the failure to disclose bank accounts in the manner prescribed by law and with respect to the sources of cash deposits to one of your bank accounts, and issue number 2 related to the use of rent-free for the period 2004-2018. On 28 January 2023, you appealed this decision to the Supreme Court of Justice. On 1 August 2023, the Supreme Court of Justice annulled the Commission's decision and ordered a re-evaluation. On 8 September 2023, the Commission started the resumed evaluation. On 9 November, pursuant to Article 19, Paragraph 1c of its Rules of Procedure, the Commission sent you a statement of facts and serious doubts. On 17 and 28 November 2023, you responded in writing to the statement of facts and serious doubts. And on 17 November 2023, you also informed the Commission that you wished to participate in a public hearing. You also requested the Commission, pursuant to Article 19, Paragraph 1e of the Rules of Procedure, to hear a person to address an issue about which the Commission has indicated it has serious doubts. The Commission has accepted to hear this person, and you have identified the issues about which the person was proposed to testify. The Commission will hear this person later during this hearing in a closed session. During this hearing, the Commission will take into account your privacy and, where required and possible, the privacy of your family members and close persons. So we will leave out unnecessary details relating to, for example, ID numbers, bank account numbers, addresses of real estate, and the like. For the protection of your own privacy, we ask you to do the same. The present hearing takes place at your request. The hearing will be focused on the statement of facts and serious doubts that the Commission has sent to you and your written responses to the statement of facts. I will briefly explain the procedure for today's hearing. For each issue included in the statement of facts and serious doubts, you will be given, if you so wish, a maximum of 50 minutes to brief. I'm sorry for the background noise here. As I said, I will briefly explain the procedure for today's hearing. For each issue included in the statement of facts and serious doubts, you will be given, if you so wish, a maximum of 15 minutes to briefly provide additional explanations to complement your written response to the statement of facts and serious doubts that you submitted to the Commission. One or more members of the Commission may have questions for you about the explanations you have provided, both in writing and during the hearing. I urge you to be concise in your explanations and answers. I also urge you to answer all questions truthfully and completely. Your explanations are important to the Commission in verifying your financial and ethical integrity. I would like now to hand over to Nona Tutoria to lead a discussion with you on the statement of facts and serious doubts. Nona, you have the floor.
Thank you. Greetings, Mrs. Buzu. On 9th November 2023, the Commission sent you a statement of facts and serious doubts in relation to two issues. First, failure to disclose bank accounts in the manner prescribed by the law and cash deposits into one of your bank accounts. And the issue number two, use of apartment rent-free between 2004 and 2018. In the materials we have furnished you today is a list that provides the account details for you to identify them. On 17 and 28 November 2023, the Commission received your response to the statement of facts and serious doubts. The Commission has taken note of your responses and adjusted serious doubts in relation to issue number one. In particular, it concerns the total amount of 60,030 Moldovan leis deposited into your bank accounts during 2011 and 2012, which you confirmed in your answers to the Commission. Also, the issue about 27,210 Moldovan leis deposited into account number 3 was considered mitigated by the Commission. Furthermore, the Commission took into account your family's consumption expenditure for population for 2011 and 12. Thus, the serious doubt in relation to issue number one, source of cash deposits for two bank accounts and failure to disclose them in the manner prescribed by law, reads as follows. The Commission has serious doubts about the candidate's financial and ethical integrity in connection with the source of funds for two bank accounts maintained by the candidate, accounts number 2 and 3, which the candidate did not declare in her 12-15 annual declarations as prescribed by the law. According to the information submitted by the bank during the resumed evaluation, there were two distinct bank accounts opened at the request of the candidate. The Commission also noted that the only penalty imposed on the candidate amounted to 13 Moldovan leis and 7,436 Moldovan leis was paid as interest during 2010-12, contrary to her claim that the total amount of 32,831 Moldovan leis had been paid for penalties and interests. The total amounts of deposits to both accounts over 2011 and 2012 was significant, 60,030 Moldovan leis. This amount was confirmed by the candidate. Adding 60,030 Moldovan leis to 5,392 Moldovan leis that the candidate paid for the loan of 120,000 Moldovan leis during September-December 2012 amounts to 65,422 Moldovan leis, or 49.5% of her salary during these years. The candidate's total salary for 2011 was 72,000 Moldovan leis, and her salary for 2012 was approximately 60,000 Moldovan leis. The Commission is not aware of any other source of funds that could be used to replenish the bank accounts. The loan of 120,000 Moldovan leis could not be used to replenish these bank accounts because, according to information submitted by the bank, the loan was intended and used for renovation of the house in the district of Orhei. Not only could those funds not be used to replenish the bank accounts, the candidates' payments on the loan during September-December 2012 further reduced the amount of income from salary that the candidate had available to replenish the bank accounts. Furthermore, according to information available to the Commission, the candidate's family's consumption expenditure for population level for 2011 was 59,464 Moldovan lei, and for 2012, 55,990 Moldovan leis. These factors heightened the Commission's doubt about the source of funds used to make the deposits and to pay the candidates' living expenses. If you so wish, please provide additional explanations or clarifications to complement your written responses to the statement of facts and serious doubts. As indicated, you are provided a maximum 15 minutes to further elaborate on this issue. Please go ahead. Thanks.
Da, o să încep referitor la
I will start
conturile care s-a menționat că au fost
with respect to the
deschise de
accounts
către mine la
that
solicitarea mea,
were
și anume două
mentioned that
conturi.
were opened at my request, two accounts.
Eu nu am solicitat ca să fie deschise
I
două
did not
conturi,
ask for
dar a
two
fost
accounts to be
deschis
opened.
un cont de credit
A credit account was opened though,
care este prezentat la răspunsuri, a fost prezentat de către
in
mine din 2010.
well, it is part of the
cum
answers.
numeam eu
It's out of
card
2010.
de credit
I
flexibil.
was calling it flexible credit card.
Astfel, vreau să caut acum
I just want to find now
materialele este
in
certificatul de
these
la bancă,
materials the certificate from the
unde
bank
se menționează, și anume la
that states
cardul respectiv
that
sunt
with
acele
respect to
două
that card,
conturi
there are those
bancare la care
two
face
bank
referire
accounts
Comisia,
that the
și
Commission
anume,
refers
care
to,
ele urmează să
namely,
fie diferențiate, deoarece se referă
they should be differentiated,
la cardul
these two accounts, because
respectiv.
they are
Și
related
anume,
to that card,
este cont
namely,
de credit
the credit account
care se finisează cu cifra 173
ending in 173
și cont de card
and card account
995.
ending in 995.
Aceste două conturi se
These
referă
two
la
accounts
creditul
are
bancar
related
luat
to
în
the
sumă
bank
de
loan
30.000
in
de
the amount
lei.
of
30.000
30,000
de
lei. So
puteam să le
I
folosesc
could use those 30,000 lei.
și dacă nu le suplineam,
And if I was
mai
not
mult de suma dată, nu
supplementing, I
puteam să
could not
ridic de pe cardul respectiv.
get more than that amount of money from that card.
Astfel, când ridicam sumele
So when
date,
I was
și
withdrawing
cum face
amounts,
referire
and as the
Comisia,
Commission
undeva
mentioned
am
that
fost suplinite
they
sumele date și a
these
fost
amounts were replenished and
posibilitatea vieții
my
a familiei mele.
possibility
După
of
cunoștință
my
că
life and my
sumele
family's
date
life
erau
was somehow
ridicate de pe
damaged by
cardul
that,
dat
I
anume
want to
pentru
mention that
necesitățile
these
familiare.
amounts were being withdrawn from that card, particularly for family
Respectiv,
needs,
ele se suplineau
and then they were
din
replenished
salariu.
from salary.
Astfel, sumele date
Thus, these amounts
urmează să fie luate în considerație
have to be
de
taken
Comisie,
into account by the
că
Commission
anume au fost folosite pentru
because
traiul
they
familiei.
were used for the living of my family.
Și totodată ce ține de calcularea
At the same
sumelor care
time,
au fost rambursate
with respect to
băncii,
calculation of
anume pe aceste
amounts
două
reimbursed to
conturi,
the bank,
care Comisia
with respect to
le-a
those two
sumat
accounts that the
și a ajuns
Commission
la
added
suma
up and reached the
relatată,
amount that was mentioned,
ele din la rubrica debit și credit, ele se
on
repetă
debit
în
and
ambele
credit
conturi,
side, amounts
în
are
aceeași
repeated
zi,
for both
la
accounts on
aceeași
the same
dată,
day,
la aceeași
same
oră.
same date, same time,
deoarece ele sunt
because
anume doar cu
they
referire
are
la
only related
cardul de credit care
to
a fost
the credit
încheiat cu
card
banca.
that I
Asta care
contracted from the
consider că
bank.
este o eroare a comisiei.
I think this is a mistake on Commission's side.
Ce ține de sumele care statistice
With
prezentate de
respect to
comisie
the
necesare
statistical
pentru
amounts that the
familia
Commission
mea,
presented needed for my
date
family,
statistici pentru anul 2011 și
the
2012, deja am
statistics for
relatat
2011 and
aceste sume
2012, I
și erau
already mentioned that
folosite
those
în
amounts
creditul
were
respectiv
used
și
on the account of that credit.
ele nu erau în
And
defavoarea familiei mele.
they were not
Real, cum îmi
disadvantaging my
programam sau
family.
planificam
Like,
cheltuielile
realistically,
familiei
how I
mele
was planning the
la primirea
expenses of my
salariului
family when I was getting the
din
salary
start, în aceeași
from the
zi,
beginning, on the
fetelor
same
le
day,
repartizam
I was
suma integrală pentru
giving
lună.
the girls an
Cheltuieli
amount
de
for a month,
transport,
travel
cheltuieli pentru
expenses, transport
prânz.
expenses, lunch expenses.
Le menționam că aceste cheltuieli
I was
o să
saying that
fie până la
this
salariul meu următor.
is money to be used for
Respectiv, dacă era
expenses till my
necesar de
next
alte
salary.
cheltuieli
So
în
if
familie,
other expenses were
când
needed in my family,
sursele erau cheltuite din salariu,
when
atunci apelam
salary was already spent
la
up,
cardul
I
respectiv
was
și
using that card
sustrageam sumele
and
ca
I was
următoarea
withdrawing
lună
amount
să
so that
suplinesc suma
next
ridicată.
month I would
Deci,
put
respectiv,
back
erau
the amount
folosite
that I
pentru
withdrew.
necesitatea
So
familiei,
it was
la
used for
urgență,
family needs
necesitate.
in case of
Doar acolo o
urgency.
sumă a fost ridicată în luna
Only one
februarie, chiar
amount
de la
there was
începutul
withdrawn
încheierii
in
contractului
February, I
unor
think
câteva
at the
luni.
beginning, a couple
În
of
luna
months
februarie,
after
când este
I
ziua mea de
contracted the card.
naștere și a
In
copilului
February,
meu,
when it's my birthday and my
într-adevăr, am mers
child's
cu
birthday,
copiii, cu prietenii
and
familiei și la noi este o
I went
regulă.
with the children and with
Când
family
sărbătorim
friends. When we have a rule, when
o
we
onomastică, fiecare își
celebrate a
achită
birthday,
consumația.
everyone pays for
Respectiv,
what
am achitat
they
cu cardul
consume.
respectiv,
So I
dar
paid
suma
with that
pentru
card,
cheltuielile date au fost
but the
returnate.
amount for those
Adică
expenses
a
was
fost
given
o
back to
gestionare
me. So
economă
that was
a familiei mele.
an
Nu îmi
economic
permiteam să facem
management of my
careva
family.
alte cheltuieli
We
care
could
nu le
not
puteam
afford
permite.
to make other expenses. We could just not afford that.
Totodată vreau să atrag atenție
At the same time, I
comisiei
would like
cu
to
referire
draw the
la sumele
attention of
care
the
ați
Commission
menționat salariale. La mine în declarații
to
de
the amount of
venit
the
sunt alte
salaries that
sume
you mentioned.
posibil.
There are other amounts in
Comisia a
my
exclus o
income
sumă,
declarations.
cred că
Maybe
de
the
taxele
Commission
de
excluded, I
stat,
think,
fiindcă
maybe some state
conform
taxes,
declarației de
because
venit din
according to
2011,
my 2011
este
income
menționată suma de
declaration,
90.104
I have the
lei și
amount
12
of
bani. Ceea ce comisia
90,104 lei
menționează
12
suma
bani.
pentru anul
What
dat
the Commission said
de
the amount for that year was
72.056 lei.
72,056 lei.
Respectiv în anul 2012, în
And then in
declarație salariul
2012,
este de
in my declaration, the
deja
salary is
activitatea în aparatul CSM și în
I was
funcție de
working at the
judecător,
SCM
totalul
and
de
as a judge,
94
so a total salary of 94,159
lei și 23
lei
bani.
and 23 bani.
Totodată am menționat
And
comisiei și în explicațiile
I
anterioare.
told the
În
Commission, even in my previous
2012,
explanations, that in 2012,
fapt ce este menționat și în
which is
declarația de venit,
also mentioned in the income declaration,
a fost o sumă
there was an amount.
care am găsit și invoice-ul. Este așa un
I
pic.
actually also found the invoice. It's
Bine că l-am găsit în suma de
well, it's old, but it's good that I found it. It was an amount of
Asta a fost
$1,200.
o bursă
That was a scholarship.
am aplicat pentru participare
So I
la
applied
conferința
for
internațională din Haga.
participation
Participând
at an
la bursa
international
dată,
conference in The Hague.
a
And
fost două
by,
burse care am
well,
luat eu
there have
bursa
been two
respectivă
scholarships.
și
I got
un
one,
participant din
and
Pribaltica.
a participant from the
Suma
Baltic
dată
countries
de
got another one. So this amount
$1,200
$1,200 was transferred to me by Western Union. I will scan this invoice and I will provide it to the Commission subsequently. In order to take part in the conference organized by the International Associations of Court Administration. That's an association established by the United States. The expenses that I made out of that amount were for accommodation, around $250, $300. I don't remember exactly. Maybe I will find in my email. I will try to find that amount. And for plane tickets, also around $300. Thus, what was left, the remaining amount, was used for my family because we had per diem calculated when that amount was given, and the Commission did not take that into account. With respect to declaring those two accounts that I mentioned, that they are related to the credit card, I told the Commission I actually studied most declarations of my fellow judges that are published on the SCM website for the respective period. And I gave as an example to the Commission even declarations of Ms. Raducanu, who is a Commission member, who in her own declarations, also in my declarations and declaration of my other colleagues, made this mistake. Non-disclosure of a number of the account number, sorry. The section that the Commission refers to in the declaration that was applicable at that time in Chapter 4, Financial Assets, and it states that you have to declare bank accounts, investment funds, equivalent forms of savings and investment. And in that section, there is a table with the following information. Name of the institution that manages it and its address. The type, the amount of the currency, opened in what year, interest, slash dividend, and the holder. That is applicable to that section. I did not mention the accounts related to the credit card in that section. And the Commission says that I failed to disclose them because the card, that credit card, was listed in Chapter 6. Chapter 6 under debts. Therefore, I declared. Why not in Section 4? Because I believe these bank accounts are not accounts as a result of which interest and dividends is earned. So they don't fall under, legally, they are not supposed to be declared in this section. This error, if the Commission believes that I should have declared those accounts, that error was made by all judges in the system. So it was reported in the debts section, and that section states that you are supposed to disclose the debts, including unpaid tax, mortgages, benefits issued for third parties, loans and credits,
Considerând că creditul dat a fost
believing
luat din
that
bancă
that credit
și urmează
taken
anume
from
să
a
fie
bank
relatat la rubrica dată, ceea ce
has
și-am
to be
făcut și-am
disclosed
declarat.
in that section. So I did. I
Deoarece
disclosed
anume
it
la
there
rubrica dată este
because
menționat creditul,
in that section I listed that credit,
contractul,
the
în ce an a
contract,
fost încheiat,
in what year it was
scadența,
the due date,
scadența conform contractului,
the
rata
due date
dobânzii,
according to the
suma
contract, the
inițială,
interest rate, the initial
valuta
amount,
și
the
debitorul.
currency,
Astfel,
and the
anume la
debtor.
rubrica dată, eu am menționat
So I
despre
mentioned
creditul
in that
respectiv,
section that
indicând de la
credit.
ce bancă a fost
So I
ridicat,
said from what bank I
în
got
ce
it,
an a fost
in
încheiat
what
contractul,
year the contract was
scadent până
concluded,
în ce an,
it was due until what
rata
year,
dobânzii, suma
the
inițială,
interest rate, initial
respectiv
amount,
valuta, și că l-am
the
ridicat eu.
currency, and it was me who
Astfel,
obtained it.
nu a fost
Therefore,
nedeclarate conturile date, deoarece ele
it
sunt
was
cuprinse
not a
în
non-disclosure
creditul
of those
respectiv.
accounts because they are included into that
Și
credit.
dacă Comisia consideră că astea sunt dubii
And
serioase,
if the Commission
atunci
believes
dubiile
that
serioase
these
să fie la
are
tot
serious
sistemul,
doubts, then the
care au
entire
activat atunci
system
au
has
dat
serious doubts.
declarații.
Everyone who
Astfel
worked at
cum
that
a
time,
fost
everyone who filed declarations at that time,
relatate anume la rubrica
because
datorii,
these
având și
things
alți
were
judecători
reported
credite,
under debts,
și nici
because
de cum la
other judges
rubrica
also had
conturi
credits,
bancare,
and
deoarece consider
not
că
declared under
la
bank
rubrica
accounts
conturi
section,
bancare
because I
urma
believe
să
in
fie
bank accounts
declarate
you
acelea
had
conturi
to report
în
those
urma căror
accounts as a result of
titularul
which the
urma să
holder
aibă
was
dobândă și dividende,
getting
ceea ce nu întrunea
interest or
condițiile
dividends.
conturile date,
But
deoarece ele
these
se refereau la
accounts
datorii.
did not meet those requirements
Și
because
nu a
they
fost
were related
ascuns
to debts. So
conturile respective.
these accounts were not hidden.
Dar dacă Comisia consideră că totuși urma să
However,
fie
the
declarate,
Commission
atunci
that
să mă
they
scuzați
were
și
supposed
înseamnă
to
că
be
a fost o
disclosed
eroare
there, then I am
care
sorry. It
nu a
was
fost reglementată
an
cu referire, am
error
făcut
that
referire
was
și
not
la Comisie, n-a fost
regulated, and
reglementată
I
nici
made
prin
reference to the
regulament.
Commission. It
Dar
was not even
ulterior,
regulated
același
in a
regulament care l-am
regulation,
prezentat
but
Comisiei în
subsequently the regulation that I submitted to the Commission
2018 deja elaborat
2018, developed in 2018,
și anume prin ordinul
namely
președintelui ANI
by
numărul
order
15
of the President
din
of NIA,
27
number
2
15 of
2018,
27th of February
unde
2018,
în detalii se menționează
it
ce
gives
trebuie să cuprindă o
details about
declarație de
what
venit
should
și
be
ulterior,
included in
după
an
regulamentul dat care
income
a fost
declaration. And
adoptat,
after that
nimeni nu
regulation was adopted, no one
a întocmit declarații eronat. Cu
made
atât mai mult, pe la
declarations
moment,
with mistakes. Moreover,
când se întocmesc declarațiile de venit în
currently,
formă
when
electronică,
income statements, income
avem
declarations are
posibilitatea, în
adopted
caz de
electronically, we have a
neclaritate,
possibility
să
in case of
contactăm
unclarity, we can
un
contact
agent
an
a
agent
Agenției
of
Naționale de
the
Integritate.
National Integrity
Avem posibilitatea
Agency.
să ne consultăm
We can
și să întocmim
consult
o declarație
and
corectă,
draft a
încă
correct
niciun judecător
declaration, because
nu va
no
ascunde ceva
judge
ce
will
nu-i aparține
hide
sau nu
something
deține.
that does
Dar
not
dacă asta o
belong to
face,
him or
înseamnă că
her, or
rea
they
intenție.
do not hold.
Ceea ce la
So, I mean, if they
mine
do it, it's
personal mă refer,
ill-intended,
n-am
but
avut nicio rea intenție să nu
personally
declar
speaking, for
conturile
myself, I
bancare,
have
cum
never
nici
had
nu le-am
such an
cunoscut
intention
cifra
not to
dată, numărul
not to
contului,
declare a bank account.
deoarece eu am
I never
încheiat
knew
contract cu
the
banca
bank
referitor la
account numbers because
creditul
the
respectiv,
contract I concluded with
care
the
am
bank
primit un
was about the
card de
credit,
credit
and
la
I got
mână.
a
Și nu mai
credit card
cunoșteam că
on
mai
hand.
este și
I
altul
did not know that there are other
număr
numbers
de cont, cum am făcut referire
of
în
account
care
numbers,
mi-a explicat și banca
as
din răspunsul care l-am
the
primit.
bank explained in the answer I got.
Cam este explicațiile. Încă un moment vreau să adaug.
These are my
referitor
explanations.
la
Though there's something else that I would
ceea
like
ce
to add
invocă Comisia conform
with
datelor
regards
statistice,
to
că urma
the
să
fact that
fie
the Commission
suma
said that
necesară
as per the
pentru taie
statistics,
50.000
the amount was there
la
50,000, I think. Let me see.
Vreau să reiterez că e
I
cunoscută
would like
situația
to reiterate that
cât pentru
this,
Moldova,
well, it is known for
că aceasta este
Moldova
statistică,
because there are
dar
statistics.
consider că chiar dacă ați prezentat astfel
However,
de
I
date
believe that even if
statistice,
you
urma în
shared
detalii
such
să fie
statistics,
descifrat
actually there was
pentru ce
supposed to be
anume
a
sumele date erau
detailed
necesare
disaggregation as
pentru
what the amounts
alimentație,
were needed for,
pentru
such as for food,
um,
for for clothes, etc. And I can explain that in 2000, back then I was working in medicine, and I've also taken some courses in modeling and seamstressing, I think that is. And my mother is a professional in this field, and I submitted documentation to the commission about it. So when it comes to clothing, my children wore clothes that I have sewn myself, that my mother also sewed. So simple skirts and even a cold season coat. And that didn't require too much expenditure. I would take the fabric from the shopping center called Gemini, and I would choose it from those boxes where they would have cast-offs, or I was buying fabric at a discount. Therefore, the expenses for clothing weren't that big. So this is where my answer, or what I would like to say about clothes. There are things that I might not have mentioned because that can be used as a reason to laugh about people, but if we have parents in the countryside, well, actually we get a lot of footsteps from there. I've also mentioned the greenhouse that my parents owned. After my father passed away, I started of late to take care of that. And I will provide you pictures showing the crops that I was able to harvest, and therefore the expenses for food were also very small, practically minimal. I wonder how can I else put it? For instance, I would buy 200-300 grams of fish, for instance, to make some fish soup, to make sure that the children would be nourished properly, and it would cost me 10 lei, for instance. And there are other details that are humiliating. So that's with regard to that matter. I don't know if you have any other questions in this regard. I am a little bit nervous. I apologize. One more thing that I would like to add. Regarding the fact that I decided to move from the healthcare field to law, I think I will speak about it in a closed hearing because this has to do with my family, something personal, and I would be talking about other people too.
Thank you, Mrs. Buzu. May I continue with some of additional questions? I understand that you finished your explanations.
Yes.
Okay, so I have a couple of questions. You touched upon a few issues, but I think that we still need to go through this kind of question. So my first question is, for 2012 and 15, you declared one bank account in the financial assets section of your annual declaration of income and property, which you submitted to the National Integrity Authority. You indicated the name of the bank, but did not indicate the account number. In your response to the statement of facts and serious doubts concerning the annual declarations filed during the period 2012 and 15, you claimed that the completion of the declaration forms had been regulated only after adoption of Order Number 15 of 27 February 2018 of the President of the National Integrity Authority. You submitted the first page of the regulations attached as annex to Order Number 15. This page contains general provisions regarding the subject of declarations, signing declarations, etc. So please answer the following questions. So please explain what you did not understand about the bank accounts. And if you did not understand the rules concerning declaring bank accounts, why and how did you declare one bank account in your declaration for 2012 and 15?
One bank account that I declared had to do with the fact that a euro account was opened. So that was that account. That account was opened specifically because having to work and to travel for work purposes under different projects. In order to have your visa opened, you needed to prove that you had some funds for that particular trip abroad. And for instance, the banking card where there was the 30,000 lei, from there too, I took an amount to put it on that euro account because you need to provide a certificate as a proof of the fact that you have the possibility to cover expenses related to the trip, that you can cover your expenses abroad. And it is for those reasons that I reported that account. It's indeed true that I opened a bank account and it doesn't have to do with the credit account like the other accounts. It was there just being used when I needed to prove something. And it's on that account that I would deposit funds and then I would use it for the purposes that they were used for. So it had to be 500 euros, I think. You needed to have that amount on your bank account to be able to get a visa. No, you are muted.
Microphone, Nona. Mic.
I'm sorry. Please explain how the first page of the annex to order number 15 attached to your answers supports your claim. Are you suggesting that the completion of declaration forms for judges were not regulated until 2018?
Yes, that's exactly what I stated. There was no regulation in this regard. And indeed, all of those errors were due to the fact that there wasn't enough clarity. I would like to say that I too made an error because there is a NIA document where I declared all the assets in a particular year, and then the next year I didn't declare my real estate because I thought that since I declared it the previous year, I didn't have to know, and that was a mistake. But then I've addressed it because I thought that if I declared it once, then I didn't have to declare it every year after that. So it's an error that was not made purposefully. There was no ill faith in that action. And I wasn't hiding anything at all. I didn't even have anything to hide.
Are you aware whether any instructions were issued by the National Integrity Commission or the National Integrity Authorities during this time period, I mean 2012, 2015, and whether you ever contacted NIA for advice in filling out the declarations?
I don't know if there were rules like that developed, but I think 100% there weren't, because working in the Secretariat of the Council, and as I was collecting the declarations from judges, even when I was using them as a model, being as a judge, then seems there was unclarity.
So Could you please explain, so what role you had in collection of others' declaration? Did you have any special position in the court? So just, this is something new for me. Could you please provide more information on that?
Din 2017.
Since 2017 until,
Din 2007, eu încerc
no,
scuze.
from 2007, apologies, until 2017, I have worked in the Secretariat of the Superior Council of Magistracy. I was initially a coordinator specialist and lead specialist. Apologies.
Eu încerc scuze, am uitat să
Apologies, I forgot to turn
închid telefonul.
my phone off.
Șef secției justiție și
So then I was the head of the Department for Justice and Human Resources, and in that period of time, the declarations used to be submitted with the Secretariat of the Superior Council of Magistracy. But later, well, when all the declarations would be collected together, they were being passed on to the NIA. So there was this double record keeping. The declarations were kept with the Secretariat of the Council and with the NIA as well.
Okay, let me move now to the next question. According to the statement of facts and serious doubt documents furnished to you, the Commission obtained information from the bank indicating that accounts number 2 and 3 were opened based on contracts with the bank in your name and at your request. The copies of the response from the bank and your request to open 2 accounts were included in the dossier provided to you on 20th November 2023. Do you dispute that the accounts were opened based on the loan and credit agreements you had with the bank and they were opened at your request? And if so, on what basis?
Eu cerere am scris-o la bancă pentru
Well, the application that I filed with the bank was to enter into a credit account, a contract, sorry, and it was not for the purpose of opening bank accounts. And on the basis of that application to set up a credit agreement, so that on the basis of that, it is that the bank opens bank accounts then. So after a contract is entered into, after that happened, after we entered into that contract, the bank didn't tell me that on the basis of that, you have these 2 accounts now. I was not aware of their existence. I didn't even know the numbers of those accounts. Maybe, well, had I known, I would have reported that in the line for debt, and I would have put down the number of the account, credit account, because if you declare it in the debt chapter, if you declare there are those sort of contracts, then even the integrity agents would have been able to look it up at the bank, and they would have been able to see the credit contract, and they would have been able to see the number of the account that it was linked to.
Okay. My next question is following. According to information obtained by the Commission during the resumed evaluation during the period 2010-12, the only penalty imposed on you by the bank in connection with accounts number 2 and 3 amounted to 13 Moldovan leis. You also paid 7,436 Moldovan leis as interest. During the initial evaluation, you claimed that the total amount of 32,831 Moldovan leis had been paid for penalties and interests. Please explain why you informed the Commission that the total amount of penalties and interests was 32,831 Moldovan lei.
La moment, în detalii, nu avem descifrarea depunerilor.
At that time, I didn't have the disaggregated amounts that were deposited. I thought that that amount was deposited for the interest. But actually, as I explained, since that was a credit card, and I've also reiterated that when I was taking money from that card, I was trying to make sure that the next month, as soon as I would receive the salary, I was trying to pay up that debt. I showed you the contract, and the contract sets out what penalty or what interest, what will happen if there's any delay in the payment. But there was an interest if there was a delay of 1 month. If you paid 1 month later, so you had to pay interest. So that's why I was confused in my mind. So I was trying to have a disciplinary approach and not to have any additional expenses whatsoever. And I was putting back on that account the money that I would take out of it. Because everybody understands when there is a credit, it is very hard to, well, maybe I could use other words such as you fall down the rabbit hole when you take one and it's hard to pay it up. So I was trying to do my best to pay everything I was due in due time, that is within a month. Because otherwise, if there was a delay, then the funds, they would take the funds. Otherwise, I would have ended up using money that was initially meant for the family. I would have had to use that to pay up my debts to the bank. So that's why I was doing my best to pay my dues within a month.
Mr. Chairman, if I
Yeah,
can
Laia.
ask clarification. Bună ziua, doamna Buzu. Puteți doar să clarificați?
Madam
Ați avut
Buzu,
o
can you clarify? You said no interest. Did you mean interest or did you mean penalty if you didn't pay? But, well, interest penalty, that is depending on whether there was a delay and if you didn't pay in due time, you had to pay within 1 month. So within a month, you wouldn't have to pay penalty or interest. I mean, I don't even remember now what the clauses were of the contract, but I mean both. As in, if you take 1,000 lei in that month on the 5th, then by the 5th of the next month, you had to pay that back. If you didn't pay it back by that date, then the clauses of the contract would apply either as interest or penalty.
Go ahead, Nona.
Okay, yeah, Nona, go ahead. Yeah.
The next question. You took a loan of 120,000 Moldovan leis in September 2012. According to the loan agreement, the purpose of the loan was the renovation and repair of the residential property located in district of Orhei, and the funds could not be used for any other purpose. The bank confirmed that 120,000 lei loan was used according to its intended purpose. The bank also submitted supporting documents. Thus, the loan of 120,000 leis could not be used to replenish bank accounts number 2 and 3. According to loan agreement, the monthly payment on the loan was 2,029 Moldovan leis. The bank data shows that between September and December 2012, you paid 5,392 Moldovan leis to repay the loan. Is it correct that the funds for 120,000 lei loan were designated for repairs on Orhei property and that they could not be used for any other purpose?
Corect.
That is correct.
Is it correct that the loan proceeds were used only on the Orhei property repair?
Au fost folosite pentru reparații
That was
imobile.
used for the renovations for that property in Orhei. But as I also stated,
coordonat cu banca.
this was coordinated with the bank. I asked for 100,000. I was given 120,000 because I had mentioned that I was supposed to pay up another loan of 30,000, and the bank agreed and the same amounts were paid up. So I didn't have to pay 4,000 lei a month, but 2,000 lei a month.
I'm sorry, could you please elaborate a little bit more about this, because it needs more clarity. So you took which 2,000 and 4,000 you are
Suma
talking
de
about?
Dacă rămâneam cu două
So if I had two loans,
urma
then I
suma
would have had to pay
și respectiv
an amount for that loan and for the loan that I took earlier of 30,000. So an amount was taken out for that loan, because when I took the 120 loan, there was a condition to pay 10,000 to enter into that loan agreement. So that amount I took from that credit card that I had.
Okay. Let me move to the next question. In response to the statement of facts and serious doubts, you stated that in 2011, you deposited 15,990 Moldovan leis, and in 2012, 44,040 leis in account number 2. In total, for years 2011 and 12, you deposited 60,030 leis in repayment of the loans and credits related to this account. According to the bank data, during September-December 2012, you repaid 5,392 in installments on the loan of 120,000, as we just discussed. Based on this information, the total amounts of deposits into both accounts over 2011 and 12 and the payment of the 120,000 loan was 65,422 leis, or 49.5% of your salary during these years. In addition, according to information available to the Commission, your family's consumption expenditure for population level in 2011 was 59,464, and for 2012, 55,990 leis. You have stated that your salary was the source of funds for your deposits and for payment of installments on the loan. Were there any other sources of funds for your deposits to the accounts and repayment of the loan?
Nu, sumele date erau
No.
achitate doar din
Those
doar din
amounts
salariu.
were all covered from my salary.
Și v-am explicat deja cum
And
era
I've already
modalitatea de achitare și
explained
de folosirea
how
banilor
it
și
worked, paying for it, and how I was using the money and what I was paying for.
Okay. You partially answered this question, but I still want to ask you to explain what funds you used in order to pay for your living expenses.
reiterez.
I will reiterate that the credit card,
Se ridica
from that credit card, I was taking the amounts that I needed when I needed them
pentru
in order to cover day-to-day
și
living
respectiv ele și se returnau
expenditure.
înapoi.
And
Acele sume
respectively,
care au
I was
fost
paying that
returnate,
back.
ele și-au
So
fost
those amounts that were
folosite pentru
paid
trai.
back, that
Nu
is
au
the
fost
amount that
pentru
I
altceva
used for
cheltuieli, dar
spending for day-to-day expenses,
el
nothing
toată suma
else.
dată.
So
A
that
fost pentru
entire amount,
trai.
that was all used for living expenses.
Okay. And do you have anything to add or further clarify with respect to issue number 1, which is related to deposits to your bank accounts and non-declaration of these accounts? Please go ahead.
Nu, eu consider că în detaliu am...
No, I think I've already provided a thorough explanation, and I have nothing further to add.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, and Nadia, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
Da, doamna Buzu, dumneavoastră ați început
Madam Buzu. You started your explanations by saying that there's some confusion in the way in which the Commission analyzed the information. If I got it right, with regards to the 60,000 fertility, could you please explain again what exactly was the confusion about? Where is it that the Commission erred, so to speak? Because apologies, but I didn't understand what you meant. I will explain. As regards the bank accounts, the way the Commission referred to, but I differentiated, saying that those accounts are there because the 30,000 loan agreement exists. So that's a flexible card, as it is called. You provided me information that the bank account of 111,000 and then 79,000 for the other account. So I said that those amounts are overlapping because they actually have to do with one and the same bank card. And following the calculations that I provided to the Commission, the amount of 60,000 is the correct amount that was actually withdrawn and then deposited back. It's credit and debit, and the amounts correspond, they match. And if you make calculations from the banks, from the two accounts, but then you've added them up, but try to make that, to clarify that. And what the Commission shared with you regarding the facts and serious doubts, there specifically, the Commission speaks about the deposited amount of 60,000. That is the amount. And you confirm that that is correct? Yes, that is correct. So it is correct. So then where is the mistake of the Commission? That is what I can't grasp. Where is it that the Commission made a mistake? Well, this calculation I submitted to you, the 60,000, and you've accepted it. It's only that in my explanation, I was saying that you were summing up those amounts. You were mentioning them on two accounts, but actually those two accounts, they are actually reflect the 60,000 amount. So that is exactly what the questions of the Commission were about the 60,000. And the question was the source for making these deposits of 60,000, sorry. So you don't disagree with it. I don't disagree because it has been corrected. All right, that's why I didn't understand why you continue to say that we made a mistake. No, I meant out of the explanations that I provided, and sorry if I misled you in any way.
For the questions.
Okay, very good. Then Nona, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I'm happy that we are now on the same page. So we are talking about one amount, which is 60,000 30 Moldovan lei, and Madame Buzu, you also, it is your amount that you submitted and we accepted. So we are on the same page now. Is it so?
Da, corect. Suma de 60.000.
Yes, correct. The 60,000 amount that was reimbursed under the credit contract for the years 2011-2012. That's it.
Okay, with this,
Those 2 years.
I see that there are no other questions from other Commission members on issue number 1. So I think now we can move with issue number 2. Which is use of apartment rent-free between 2004 and 2018. The Commission has serious doubts about the candidate's ethical integrity with respect to the fact that from 2004 to 2018, the candidate and her daughters used rent-free an apartment owned by a minor who had inherited the apartment at the age of 6 after the death of his mother. Serious doubts exist about whether the candidate properly fulfilled her obligation to take care of the apartment, which was sold to the candidate's daughter and her husband in 2018, apparently at an under-evaluated purchase price because of its poor condition. Serious doubts also concern the candidate's participation in the negotiations with her daughter and her husband when the agreement was reached for them to purchase the apartment. The Commission's serious doubt also relates to the absence of any involvement of real estate agents or appraisers when the agreement was reached for them to purchase the apartment. The Commission's serious doubts are also of the apartment in 2018. Yet, real estate professionals were engaged when the candidate's daughter and her husband sold the apartment in 2020 for almost 3 times the purchase price. By continuing the arrangement to reside in the apartment rent-free for 14 years, especially after she had become a judge, specializing in examining cases involving minors, and then assisting her daughter in the purchase of this apartment at a low purchase price, raises doubts about whether the minor had been taken advantage of. If you wish so, please provide brief explanations to your statements, to the statement of facts and serious doubts. And as previously, you have 15 minutes for this purpose. Thank you.
Mie îmi pare rău că comisia a ajuns la
I am
astfel
sorry
de
that the
concluzie. Din
Commission
aceste
reached
considerente
this
am solicitat
conclusion.
ca să fie
Therefore, I
audiat
asked
minorul care acum
to
e
be
major.
heard the minor, who is an adult
Ca
now,
dumnealui sau
so that
chiar
he
poziția dumnealui să o
or
cunoască
his
comisia.
position would be known to the Commission,
Fiindcă
because
ține de aceeași concluzie a comisiei
when it comes to that conclusion of the Commission,
referire că am fost specializată pe
that
minori
I
și am
was
avut o careva
specialized
atitudine
in
incorectă față
case
de
involving
minori.
minors and I
Vreau
had
să
an
spun că prima
incorrect
profesie mea
attitude
e
towards
pediatrie.
minors. I
Foarte
want to
mult
live
iubesc
that my
copiii.
first profession
Și
is
niciodată nu o să lezesc dreptul
pediatrics. I
acestora.
love children. I would never
Acum,
hurt
referitor iarăși
their rights.
eronat,
And
comisia a
again,
interpretat că eu am
erroneously, the
participat la
Commission
negocieri.
interpreted that I was part of the
Eu am
negotiations.
relatat că niciodată
I
n-am
told
participat
that
la
I have
negocieri.
never
Unica
participated in
ce a fost,
negotiations. The only thing
v-am relatat
I told you
bunica
was
copilului
that the
m-a
grandmother
contactat
of a child contacted
și a
me
menționat
and said
că are
that
intenția
she
copilul să vândă
that
apartament.
the child has the intention to sell the
Deoarece
apartment,
îndeosebi că
and
ultima perioadă a fost folosită de copiii
especially
mei,
since that apartment was used by my children
a
over the last
menționat că
period
în
of
caz
time.
contrar va fi
She
necesar
said
să
that
fie eliberat.
otherwise they would have to leave the apartment.
Informația dată
This information
am adus-o fiicelor.
I
Dacă
passed
sunt
on to my daughters,
de acord
if
sau
they
dacă
agree,
doresc
if
să
they
procure
want
acest
to
apartament.
purchase that apartment.
În caz că eu am relatat doamnei
I
că nu dispun de mijloace
told the lady
financiare,
that
că
I
nu pot
don't
să-mi
have
permit să
funds,
procur
I
apartamentul,
can't afford to purchase that apartment.
și doar pot să relatez
I
după ce
can
o să discut cu
only
copiii,
give an answer
dacă au
after I
intenție.
have talked to my children to see if they had
Deoarece
such an
fiind în
intent.
relații, formând o
Because
familie,
being in a relationship, forming a family,
discutând cu fiicele,
after
familiile
I have talked
fiicilor,
to the families of my daughters,
prima familie, și
well,
îndeosebi cinele, cum și-am
the
relatat,
first family, or especially my son-in-law, as I
relatat că nu
mentioned,
dorește
said that
să
he
locuiască cu familia
doesn't
sa
want to
în
live
apartament,
with his family in that apartment
deoarece toată viața a locuit
because
la
he
casă, pe teren sau la
has
pământ, cum se spune la noi.
lived all his life in a house, in an
Și are
individual
intenția,
house,
chiar dacă
and
își procură un
he has the
domiciliu,
intention that even if he was to buy some real estate,
o casă
it
pe
had
teren.
to be an individual house.
Noi chiar am făcut, cum ziceam, în familie, parlamentul familiei.
As we were
Din
calling
orice
it the
întrebare care
parliament
discutam,
of a
chiar de
family.
aici am deprins
Uh,
copiii
I
să-și planifice activitățile
made my
sale,
children from their
să
childhood
discutăm orice problemă în
to
familie.
plan their
Și tot timpul numeam
activities, to
parlamentul
discuss
familiei. Și
every
anume cu toți
issue
când
that happens in a
am
family, and
discutat
we were
întrebarea
calling
dată.
this the
Lucia,
parliament of a family.
familia
So
fiicei
it
mai
was
mici,
all of us
a menționat
together,
că
and were discussing this issue. And the
s-or
family of my younger daughter
s-or
said that
decide
they
dacă
would
doresc să-l
think
procure.
and decide if they want to buy it.
Și doar după ce au acceptat, am
Only
informat
after
pe
they accepted,
doamnă
I informed the
că este
lady
intenția lor să-l
that
procure.
they had the intention to purchase it. That
N-am
is all.
discutat nici cu
I did
nici
not
cu
discuss
minorul
with her,
despre
did not discuss
tranzacția
with the
și suma
minor about the
tranzacției.
transaction, about the amount of the transaction.
După cum ați relatat că am participat
You
la
said that
negocieri, asta este
I was
eronat.
part of negotiations, but that is wrong.
Unica ce am făcut deoarece
The
era
only thing
copil
I did,
mic,
because it was about a small
am mers
child,
cu ei până la notar,
I
stând în
went
coridor cu
with them to
copilul.
the notary and I stayed with the
Atât. A
child
fost
in the
tot,
hallway.
aportul meu.
That was my entire contribution.
Și chiar dacă era să
And
fie
even though
întrebată de familia fiicei,
you
părerea
would have
mea,
been asked by my daughter's
opinia
family
mea,
what
eu
was
eram să
my
o relatez.
opinion,
Și nici de cum nu eram sau nu
I
eram eu cu
would have
influența
shared it, but I was not
vânzătorului de
the
a
one having
negocia sau
influence on the seller to
schimba
negotiate,
prețul sau
to
alt
change
preț
the
fiind
price,
negociat.
or to
Și
well,
mare
to negotiate a
autoritate
different
nu
one.
sunt eu pentru
I am not an authority
a pune pentru cineva ca să-mi facă
to
favori
make
în
someone give
scăderea prețului.
favors and decrease prices.
Ce ține de neevaluarea de
And
către un
then with
agent
respect
imobiliar.
to not involving a real estate
Aceeași
agent
întrebare și-a
to
adresat doamna
evaluate the
Raducanu, că a
apartment,
vândut o casă cu
I would have the
80.000 de lei, dacă
same
a fost evaluată
question
și anume
to
prin agent
Madame
imobiliar
Raducanu. She
a
sold
fost
a house for
vândut.
80,000 lei, and I want to ask her if she
Sau
involved the
la
real
alți
estate
cetățeni ai
agent for,
Republicii Moldova care,
or other
dacă au
citizens of Moldova
cumpărători
who,
și
if they
cunosc
have a
și
buyer
nu
and they
au
know
necesitatea
the
serviciilor
buyer and they don't
agenților imobiliari,
need services of
nu
real estate
apelează la
agents,
ei.
they just don't use such services
Fiindcă pentru aceiași agenți imobiliari,
because for those real
iarăși să
estate
achită
agents,
taxe și iarăși
you have to
cheltuieli.
pay a fee. That's an expense.
De ce fiica cu familia sa,
Why my
cu
daughter
ruginele,
and her
a
family with
apelat la
son-in-law
agentul imobiliar
involved
ei nu
real
dispuneau de
estate
timp,
because they did not have the time.
fiindcă deja fiica avea a doilea copil.
Because my
Soțul
daughter had her second
de
child
expert
and
în
her husband
cantonamente, deoarece este sport de
is,
performanță.
is a performance
Soțul ei,
sportsman, so
de
he travels a
asemenea,
lot
nu
for
avea
sports.
posibilitatea să ocupe
Her
cu aceste
husband did
întrebări.
not have a possibility to handle
Și-au
those
apelat
questions
la
either.
agentul
So
respectiv,
they
deoarece
involved an agent
acest apartament
because that apartment
era la etajul 5
was on the 5th floor.
și se cunoaște că etajul 5, ultimul etaj,
Well, it isn't. It was last top floor in
se
that
vindeau
building,
foarte greu.
and it's hard to sell an apartment. It is on the top floor. It is a known fact,
Apartamentul dat
especially since that apartment
era cu problema care v-am relatat-o.
had the problems that I told you about.
Și agentul imobiliar avea acces
And
și
the real estate
posibilitatea
had access
să
and the
coordoneze,
possibility
să
to
prezinte cu
coordinate and
viitorii
to make
cumpărători
presentations for
ca să
potential
prezinte
buyers
apartamentul dat.
to present them that apartment.
Dacă mai sunt întrebări, poftim.
And if there are any questions, please.
Yes, I have a couple of questions in relation to this issue. During the initial evaluation, at first you stated that you had not been involved in the purchase of the apartment by your daughter and your son-in-law, and that you had only told them that every transaction must be official and the amount that had been negotiated has to be reflected truthfully in the contract. You also stated that the purchase price had been negotiated between the guardian and her grandson on the one hand, and your daughter and her husband on the other hand. Upon further questioning, you admitted that you had been present with your daughter and your son-in-law at the negotiations when the agreement had been finalized. During the resumed evaluation, you stated that you had not negotiated, and I quote, any transaction, and you can speak of his attitude. Perhaps you meant that you cannot speak of his attitude. So please explain your statement that you had not negotiated any transactions. And if you did not participate, why you were there and what did you do?
După cum și v-am relatat acum, eram cu
As
copilul.
I have said you just now, I was with the child. he was just the baby was a couple months old.
Ce ține de informația că eu am
With
negociat
respect to the
ceva,
information that
asta nu
I
este
have negotiated something,
direct negocieri nu am avut cu nimeni. Încă o
we,
dată vă
well, I
reamintesc.
did not have any direct
Dar
negotiation
prezența
with
mea era
anyone.
ca
My presence there
prezență ce ține
was
de ajutorul,
just
la
being
suportul,
present to help
de a avea
with
grijă de copil care plângea
taking
și chiar
care
stăteam
of the
în
baby
coridor,
that
nu
was
la notar.
crying. So I was not even in the notary's office. I was in the hallway with the baby.
Și încă vreau să menționez, fiindcă referitor la
One more
corectitudinea
thing I want to mention about
a familiei mele.
correctness of my
Am învățat
family.
fiicele niciodată să
I
nu fie
taught my daughters
influente și chiar
to
vreau să relatez că
not
când
be
se solicita
influenced.
careva taxă
And
de la școală,
well, I want to say that
pentru
when
ceva cheltuieli
some
cum se
money was
cunoaște,
demanded
se
from school
solicită,
for some expenses,
atunci eu
some
le relatam.
certain amounts, I was telling them,
Aveți bugetul
look,
vostru
you have
care vă l-am
your
acordat
budget that I
în ziua
gave
când
you
primiți salariul.
on the day I got the salary.
Respectiv, vreți
If you
să
want
aveți un aport care
to
solicită la
contribute
școală,
to
luați din banii
what
voștri,
that is demanded from the
plecați pe
school,
jos la școală.
you use your own money and then walk to the
Adică
school.
nu le permiteam
I did not allow
să
them
fie implicate în
to be
astfel de
involved
cheltuieli.
in
Respectiv,
such
când s-au căsătorit,
expenses.
și
When
la
they got
tineri le-am
married,
spus,
I told my
deoarece ambele aveau
sons-in-law as
afaceri,
well, because they both had
să fie
sort of
corecți
business,
în afacerea
be
lor.
correct in their business.
Și de asta și-am menționat, și chiar și
And
la
that's
aceeași
why I
tranzacții,
mentioned,
le-am
even
relatat
for that
doar ceea ce
transaction, I
urmează, ceea ce
only
solicitare sau
told
doleanță o aveam eu,
them, well, that was my
dar
only
de acțiunile lor,
request,
eu nu sunt
but I
responsabil și
am
obligat
not
să răspund
responsible
cum
for
au
their
negociat,
action,
la
and
ce
I
sumă au
can't answer for
negociat.
their actions, how
Și
they
nu am
did
influențat
negotiate, for what
negocierile.
amount they negotiated, and I did not influence any negotiation.
Please
Credeți?
explain.
Ok.
Are you done? If you want to complete, please go ahead.
Nu, am vrut să menționez că,
I
într-adevăr,
wanted to
nu le-ar
mention
fi
that
ușor fetelor când
well,
erau
it
puse în
wasn't easy for the
situații,
girls when they were
să spun,
put
neegale cu ceilalți colegi,
in
chiar erau un pic
situations that were
discriminate în
unequal to their
situațiile
colleagues.
date
They were
sau
somehow discriminated
limitate.
or limited
Dar deja
in
cunoșteau
those
că nu trebuie să
situations,
adreseze
but
la ele,
they,
mă rog,
well,
să spun așa,
it was known that they shouldn't be
cu
asked
atitudinile incorecte.
for that with incorrect attitudes.
Please explain what you mean by I cannot speak of his attitude. So do you mean the young man who was the owner of the apartment, or you mean your family, or what do you mean by the statement that you mentioned in your answers to the statement of facts and serious doubts? So let me repeat, you said that I did not negotiate in any transaction, and I can speak of his attitude. We understood that maybe not is missing there, but please explain, please go ahead and provide more input on that.
Corect. Ce ține de negocieri. Cum s-o
When it comes
negocia?
to negotiations and
relatat
how
că eu
that
nu
was negotiated,
răspund
that's what I
pentru
told you.
negocierile care au fost încheiate.
I
am avut
cannot
niciun
answer
aport la
for
ele.
some negotiation that was
Asta
concluded
m-am
and I
vrut să
had no
spun.
contribution. That's what I
Nu
meant.
pot să răspund de
I cannot
unele
answer
acțiuni care
for actions
nu am fost implicată. Eu și n-am avut
that
tangență cu
did
ele.
not involve me, that were not connected to me.
And you meant they are both parties of negotiations. On one hand, the young man, and on another hand, your family. Is it correct, or you meant the young man only, or?
Corect, eu am făcut referire la toți participanții care
I made reference to
urmează
all
să
the
răspundă de
parties
acțiunile sale.
that
Okay.
are supposed to answer for their own actions.
Okay, understood. Next question. In 2018, when one of your daughters and her husband purchased the apartment from the owner, who was then 20 years old, they paid 252,000 leis, which is approximately 12,700 euros for the apartment. According to information from Lara Real Estate Company, the value of a 47.7 square meter apartment located in the Botanica sector in the old block of apartments in 2018 was estimated at approximately 509,000 Moldovan leis, approximately 25,600 euros. The couple sold the apartment in 2020 for the price of 680,000 leis, which is approximately 33,500 Moldovan euros. You provided pictures of the apartment which showed that at the time of selling the apartment in 2020, it was in a very good condition and that it had been substantially renovated. However, you did not provide information about the total amount of investment your daughter and her husband had made in this apartment. As noted, according to Lara, the value of a 47.7 square meter apartment located in Botanica sector in the old block of apartments in 2018 was estimated at 509,000 leis. Do you contest this information? And if so, on what basis?
Eu țin de informația de la Lara.
Speaking of information from Lara,
Anume, la
I
ce apartamente
don't
concret se
know
referă informația
what
dată. Dacă este
specific
o dată
apartment that information
date
is about
statistice
specifically. I mean,
generale,
if that's some general
dar nu
statistics,
este o statistică concret la
but it is not
apartamentul concret,
concrete statistics about a
și
concrete
anume dacă era să
apartment.
fie evaluarea la apartamentul dat despre care
If that was
discutăm,
an evaluation of this apartment in question, the one that we're
atunci este
discussing,
o situație.
that is
Ce
a
ține
situation.
de evaluarea care a fost
When
efectuată
it
ulterior, am prezentat
comes to the
nu doar
evaluation
poze
carried out later on, I provided not only
ce nu le dețineam, dar
photos,
chiar am rugat
because I did not have them, but I asked the buyer
să-mi permită să intru
to
în apartament,
allow me to go
să
into
fac
the
careva
apartment,
poze,
to take some
să
pictures,
prezint comisii
and to submit them to the commission
ca răspuns la întrebările care
as
mi
an
s-au
answer
adresat.
to the questions that
După
were
aceea,
asked.
dumneaei mi-a relatat că în
Then
arhivă
the
păstrează anume
told
pozele și
me that she's
anunțul
keeping in the
agentului
archive the
agentului
pictures
imobiliar,
and the ad
care și le-am
of the
prezentat
real
comisiei,
estate
și anume
agent.
cu prețul
And that's what I
inițial
provided the
care a
commission
fost
with.
scos în
The
vânzare de către
initial
agentul
sale
imobiliar
price announced by
și deja
the real
prețul
estate
care a
agent
fost
and
negociat.
the price
Chiar
that was
este și
negotiated.
diferența în preț.
And there is a difference
Vreo
there.
5.000 de euro, mi se pare că
I
acolo.
think about 5,000
Deci
euros,
este chiar suma pe
because you
pozele
can see
respective.
the amount on the pictures.
Și dacă faceți referire la
And
agenția
if
Lara, acolo se
you
referă
make
la
reference to
apartament.
Lara,
După cum a dat
well,
declarații
it
și
is about
am
some
prezentat
apartment, and as
comisie
I
de către
provided
cumpărătorul
the commission
ulterior.
with the declaration from the buyer, she said
Care este starea apartamentului?
what was the
Plus, nu doar
condition of the
pereții
apartment,
s-au fost
and it
vândut când s-a
wasn't,
vândut
well,
apartamentul.
we did not sell only the walls when
Dar
we
s-a
sold the
vândut
apartment.
împreună și cu
It was
mobilă
sold with
și utilajul tehnic,
furniture and
respectiv și
appliances.
prețul apartamentului se
Therefore,
majorează.
the price of the apartment
Astfel,
is
o
increasing
statistică
on
de
that
la
account.
agenția
So,
Lara nu e relevantă pentru
such
apartamentul care a fost în starea care a
statistics
fost,
from Lara is not relevant for
care
the
a fost
apartment
negociat de
in
părțile
the
care
condition that
sunt
it was
părți
and as it
contractare,
was negotiated by the contracting
au
parties
negociat între ei.
that negotiated
prima
in between
situație și în
them,
a doua
both
situație.
in the first and in the second case.
Do you think that the purchase price of 252,000 lei or 12,500 euros reflected the apartment's real value in 2018?
Dacă a fost negociat la suma dată, consider că da.
If that was negotiated, if the
într-adevăr,
apartment was
era o
negotiated to
casă
that
foarte
amount, I believe
problematică.
it did. It
Și
was
chiar în
house with
apropiare, în
problems.
altă scară fixă, s-a vândut
In the
sumele
same,
care
but
respective,
nearby,
aceleași sume.
there
Ultimele
were
etaje erau
apartments
foarte
sold for the
problematice în
same
apartamentul dat
amounts.
și toți
It was
proprietarii doreau
difficult
să
to
vândă
sell on the
apartamentele
top
de la
floor.
etajul 5.
All owners on the fifth floor wanted
Fiindcă acolo
to
era
sell their
problema cu
apartments
acoperișul
because there was
de
a
la prima
problem
scară
with the
până la a
roof
patra.
from the first entrance to the fourth entrance of that building. Everyone had problems.
When purchasing the apartment in 2018, you did you consider involving real estate agents or appraisers? If not, why not?
Nu eram eu interesată de acest apartament.
I was not interested in that
Și nu am avut
apartment.
careva gânduri de a fi
I
implicat
did not
careva
have any
agenți. Asta întrebare
ideas to
urmează să o
involve
adresați
agents. That
vânzătorului
question
care a
should
vândut
be asked
apartamentul
to
și
the
care
seller
urma, dacă avea
who
careva
sold
dubii
the
sau
apartment.
întrebări, probleme,
And should they had any doubts, questions, or
se gândea la
problems,
soluția care urmează
they would
să o
have
ia.
thought about a solution.
N-am avut niciun interes față de
I
apartamentul.
had no interest in that apartment.
Did you feel any responsibility towards this young man?
Responsabilitate în ce aveți în vedere dumneavoastră?
What do you mean by responsibility?
Responsabil de negocieri
Responsible for negotiation
sau le-a
that
avut?
he
No, I mean in
had?
general, because he was the minor who lost his mother when he was 5 years old, and you lived in his apartment. So, did you feel any sort of responsibilities towards him, or it was not your consideration at all?
Eu țin cont în genere de tot ce mă înconjoară pe mine.
I take into consideration everything that surrounds me.
Situația care a fost a
To
familiei
explain
mele
the situation of my
în detalii.
family in
Și poate să mă
details.
înțelegeți.
When I explain that, maybe that's when you will understand.
Avem la întreținere doi copii.
I
Dacă luăm în
had
comparație
two child to
întreținerea
bring up.
a doi copii,
And to compare,
de vârsta care aveau,
bringing up two children of the age
și a
they had
unui copil,
compared to one child
care starea materială
whose
era
financial situation,
Yes,
well, the
starea
financial
materială.
situation was different. His financial situation from mine.
Și când s-a negociat anume condițiile de trai,
When living conditions
deschiderea
were
care a fost
negotiations, the
a
openness of that lady
a fost o deschidere care am simțit-o că
was
o face
an
cu
openness
bună
that I
credință sau nu
felt
pot să vă
that
explic, deoarece
she
totuși a
didn't
pierdut fiica.
in good faith. I don't know how to explain. She
Mi-am
lost her
simțit că undeva
daughter,
poate o
you know?
înlocuiesc.
So I felt like maybe I was replacing her.
Și credeți-mă că situația
And
care
believe me,
m-a remarcat, anume atitudinilor
the situation
persoanelor care pe parcurs
was always with the attitude of people that over time,
acea perioadă
or over that period of time,
m-a remarcat că să ajut orice persoană
it influenced me and made me understand that I need to
care
help
cunosc să află în
any
situație
person
gravă.
that I know
aceea
is in a
particip.
difficult situation. That's why
Și ajut
I
persoanele vulnerabile.
participate. That's why I help
Asta pot să vă
vulnerable people.
menționez diferite
This can be mentioned
asociații de caritate
by
care sunt
various
implicate.
charity organizations that I'm involved with.
De aceea remușeri
So
puteam să am dacă aveam în
I, I could have some remorse if I had something extra that I could give to the child and I did not give to him.
Copiilor care urma să-i asigur cel puțin minim
To the disadvantage of the children for whom I had to ensure at least the minimum required level. I mean my own children.
Do you think that it was ethical to have continued the arrangement for use of the apartment rent-free for 14 years with only the obligation to pay utilities and take care of the apartment, especially after you had become a judge specializing in examining cases involving minors, and to have assisted your daughter with the purchase of this apartment at a low purchase price due to its poor condition, and who eventually sold it for almost 3 times the purchase price?
Iarăși nu înțeleg de ce comisia face referire
Again, I don't understand
Nată pentru
why the
examinarea
commission
cauzelor
I
minore.
was
Ce
assigned to
tangență
examine cases
are
involving minors.
la
How is that
situația care noi
related
discutăm
to the
acum?
situation that we
Și cum
discuss
ați
now?
menționat,
And as you
ceva am fost
mentioned, that
implicată în
I was
defavoarea
involved something
acestui copil.
taking advantage
E o
of a
concluzie
child,
eronată a comisiei.
that is an erroneous conclusion of the commission.
I may predict your answer, but still, do you think that these actions would lead an objective observer to believe that the minor might have been taken advantage of? And if not, why not?
Eu nu am profitat de minor.
I did not take advantage of a minor because the living conditions in that apartment, I already mentioned that it was a difficult apartment. It was one room had problems. Every year it was necessary to take off the plastering from the ceiling, wait between spring and end of summer for the ceiling to dry up so that you can do some cosmetic repairs till next winter when this problem happened again, and the guardian of the child knew that. So it was my responsibility that all the flooding that happened in that apartment down to the second floor, to be responsible to protect it, not to have problems, because that would have led to expenses of that family to repair to cover the expenses of flooding in the apartments below them, and also expenses for paying for services. Was not well, the guardian did not have to pay for the utilities.
Do you have anything to add or further clarify with respect to this issue?
Parcă nu.
I don't think so.
Yes,
I'm done
Victoria,
with my questions.
go ahead. And then, yeah, Victoria?
Yes, thank you. And just for clarification, do I understand correctly that the discussions and about the purchase by your daughter of the apartment all took place only at the notary office? There were no other discussions or meetings between the owner of the apartment and your daughter at which the contractual arrangements were discussed?
Nu au discutat ce ține de negocieri.
Well, we didn't discuss in terms of negotiations. It's just that there was the amount for which the apartment was being sold to them, and the daughter talked to her husband, and they talked to the seller. There were no negotiations of amounts. It's just the amount was established. This is what the apartment is sold for, and they went to the notary's office and they did the paperwork.
Okay, so whenever there were discussions not at the notary's office, were you present for any of those discussions with the seller as well as with your daughter?
No, I never participated in any discussion whatsoever regarding the amount, the sale amount for that apartment, where the owner would also be.
So is it your understanding that your daughter had discussions with the seller and you were not present for those discussions?
Eu v-am relatat că am fost prezentă doar
I said that I was present only at the notary, and it was the first time that I saw the child after quite a while. At least 1 year before that, I haven't seen him at all, and I haven't talked to him.
Okay, but just for clarification, my question is whether there were any discussions between your daughter and either the minor or his grandmother, or the boy and his grandmother, about the sale of the apartment, other than at the notary office at which you were present?
V-am relatat că am
As I
fost
said, I was contacted, and it was said that there is a desire to sell the apartment. And respectively, I only passed this on to my daughter, that that apartment is being sold. After that, I did not engage in any discussions regarding contractual clauses whatsoever, or the amount and where and when things are going to take place.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, and
Cu atât, eu îmi cer scuze, cu atât mai mult că eu eram la
Apologies, just to add that I was working in Orhei, and as I said, I would rarely travel to Chisinau from 2012 onwards. Most of the time I was staying with my parents. I would travel to Chisinau for workshops at the National Institute of Justice, and over the weekend when I would bring some foodstuffs to the children from the countryside, from my parents. So I wasn't spending my time on a permanent basis in that apartment as it has been perhaps understood by the Commission, because it was cheaper for me to travel 15 kilometers to work than 40 kilometers to work. And I just made those arrangements to avoid incurring further expenses from the salary that I was being paid, specifically not to have to spend for commuting. Madam Buzu, I do have a couple of questions regarding this matter. And the first one, just to clarify and to make sure that I got it right. During the initial evaluation, you stated that the guardian of the minor, at that time he wasn't 18 yet, and just to let me know if there's something wrong in what are the saying. So you were asked for the first time if you wanted to buy it, is that correct? She said that there was an intention, she had the intention to sell the apartment. And since so many years will live there, they asked us if we wanted to buy it. And I told her, I personally don't want to buy it. And do you remember in what year that happened? Well, I can't say right now. Is it correct that she asked you and then 2 years later you said that you would like to buy it? Is that correct? Yes, because the apartment was being sold already by an adult. He was already 20, he was a minor, and then he grew up. So that is, well, the question when he was not 18 yet, when he was close to 18, were you asked then, and then you said you weren't ready to buy it, and then 2 years later, the daughter and your son-in-law ended up agreeing to buy it. Is it correct, the way I understood it? When the discussions happened with regards to living in that apartment, well, I was somewhat happy about it, because the guardian told me that she agreed with us living there, provided that, well, there are certain conditions, until the child reached the age of 18. Because indeed it was very hard. It's hard when you have to move in and out of apartments, and by the time we had already moved out of 3 apartments, that because those apartments had been sold. And that's why we've agreed to live like that in that apartment, and then until he reached 18, and that's what they said, that he wouldn't be living there. So that apartment was kept like that until he reached 18, the age of 18, and then they said that they had the intention to sell it, and that if we wanted to buy it. Well, I believe that in the meantime, until the apartment is sold, I imagine, I'm not certain, I assume, well, I guess that there might have been some discussion now and then about selling that apartment, because the answer didn't come immediately, as in we didn't say immediately that yes, we want to buy it. I think it was problematic, even if they were thinking about selling it to somebody else. I think it was problematic for them to make that happen without asking us. Since I said that I didn't have any intention to buy it at that moment in time, they could have said that then we will sell it to somebody else. And that was my next question. If you have any explanation or if there's anything that can come to your mind as in why did they wait for you for 2 years to provide an answer before they sold the apartment to you? As I said, she said that she wanted to sell it. And I said that, well, I told her, if you have buyers, you can sell it. We will move out as soon as you find someone to buy it. But at that time, we didn't have the possibility to buy it. I certainly didn't afford it, didn't have the possibility to buy it, and I didn't need that apartment. And then another party, it's another thing to be kept in mind is that, well, until my daughter, well, she was giving it some thought, she was thinking about it, was like, if you need to think time to think about it, then take the time, and then maybe after the wedding they will buy it. So that's what was sad. But at that time specifically, we didn't have an intention to buy it. But when you entered that apartment, when you moved in there, you weren't a judge, is that correct? I wasn't. So in 2012, was it, when was it that you moved into that apartment? In 2004. Right, in 2004. And you became a judge in 2012. So from 2012, given that there are other standards that judges are held to, and didn't it cross your mind that that situation could turn into a problem if you continued to live there without paying at least something to the minor? I mean, out of your own initiative, not at the initiative of the guardian of the minor, given that the minor at some point in time was to grow up. That is the question. And as in, or the question regarding the line before the conducted behavior before you became a judge and after. When I became a judge, I told the guardian that I was appointed as a judge. I told her that I was supposed to be a judge in Orhei. She said that. Well, it was agreed that if she allowed for it, then my daughters would continue to live there. And I inquired into whether it wasn't a problem because I wasn't going to live there anymore, because I was responsible for that. When we negotiated back then the conditions for living in that apartment, she let me live there because she trusted that I would take good care of it. And therefore, I let her know that I was no longer going to live in that apartment, and I asked her if she allowed for my daughters to continue to stay there. And her response was that since she already knew us, she knew me, she knew our family, because they were the neighbors also, speaking as in by information, as in they knew what sort of inhabitants we were. The neighbors would report if we are quiet people or not, if there are many people coming in and out of that apartment, or how we are taking care of that apartment. So she was being passed on this information. So she was very happy with my daughters, that they are well behaved and that she wouldn't mind them living there alone, as in without me. And in terms of the payments, I told her that if there's anything going to change about the conditions, and she should tell me and let me know. But did you ever try from your own initiative to pay at least like a minimum amount of minimum rent that would go to the account of the minor, because he was a minor at the end of the day and he wasn't able to make a decision, but maybe the guardian was feeling that you are taking care of the apartment. She felt like an obligation in that regard. Well, there was no obligation for her. I would have left immediately if she told me, or if there's some other conditions negotiated, depending on whether I was able to afford the new conditions or not, then we would have discussed it. But it would have been welcome now for myself to have paid and not have any issues and not be because if I had paid some money, maybe we wouldn't have been in a situation where we would have to move out right away if she told us to move out. But we know what barter is in Moldova. I mean, people who don't pay with money, but in kind. I mean, you exchange things, and we just had a nice relationship. So things worked out differently for us. But you never mentioned this type of relationship previously. You never referred to it previously. Well, you never asked. I've said it in the resumed evaluation too. I mentioned her attitude towards me. I realized that she suffered through the trauma and she had that attitude towards me, and I was reflecting back that attitude. And what was your attitude? Then, well, it's clear that she understood your situation. She received you there. She allowed you to stay there. But then how did you take care? Or what was the care provided or given to the minor not to put him in a disadvantaged position? Now you have the opportunity to address this. Well, in terms of attitude or as contribution or giving something or providing something that would be worth the amount that I would have otherwise paid for rent, it was not asked for, and she didn't want it. She actually was against it from the very beginning when we negotiated it, and I said maybe I should pay something for rent, and she was absolutely against that idea. No more questions from me. Thank you.
Yeah, I have just one question as well. You mentioned in response to some other questions that when the apartment was bought by your daughter, that the price was set for the purchase. Who set the price? Was there no negotiation, and who was the one who came up with the price of the apartment?
The price was established by the real estate agent. And this was mentioned in the announcement that ad on the website of the real estate agency. So it was evaluated, but the agents addressed that and dealt with the sale of that apartment.
But I think in the earlier hearing that we had with you, you explicitly stated that there was no real estate agent involved in the purchase of the apartment. There was a real estate agent involved when your daughter sold it 2 years later, but not at the earlier stage. So how come that there was a real estate agent now involved?
Eu v-am relatat că doar întrebarea a fost
I said that the question was asked as to whether upon the sale of the apartment by the minor, whether there was an evaluation by a real estate. And I said no. However, when it was sold by the family of my daughter, at that time there was a real estate agent, and I told you what the reasons were. Because they didn't have the possibility to take care of the sale. I mean, the family of the daughter didn't have time to deal with that. And I could also provide some information regarding a different sale transaction that the family of my daughter performed. They also used the services of a real estate agent because they didn't have the time to deal with the sale of the assets that they had.
But I was asking, my question was about who set the price at the moment in 2018 when officially the minor sold the apartment to your daughter. How was that price developed? Who decided that price?
That price was negotiated by them. The minor wasn't a minor anymore. He was 20 years old.
But now you're saying that there were negotiations, and a few minutes ago you said there were no negotiations, the price was set. Were there negotiations or were there no negotiations at that time in 2018? I'm getting confused here. I'm sorry.
The
question was as to whether I was involved in negotiations, and my answer to that was that I didn't participate in the negotiations. Maybe something wasn't translated properly.
But then my question is, who set the price for the apartment in 2018?
It was established by the seller, by the minor, who was already 20 at the time, as I said.
And then that person at that age of 20 then had discussions with your daughter about the price, and there were negotiations to for the final price of the apartment.
Да, correct.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Any questions? Yeah, Nona, please go ahead.
I have two questions to you. Who was living in the apartment between 2016 and 2018?
În 2016-2018
So 16 to 18, that was my younger daughter.
In the initial evaluation, you provided photographs with the stamps from August 2016, showing that the apartment was in a deplorable state. Actually, it was inhabitable. So can you explain, please, how it was possible to live in this apartment in these conditions?
Anume în 2016,
In
în
2016 specifically, in August, that's when they started doing the superficial renovation, to renovate or to remodel. And for a few months, nobody lived in that apartment. And that's when the pictures were from. So that was August. And the brothers came from abroad. I mean, there's a nephew that gave a hand. So I have a very united family, and I'm happy about it. So I have 3 other brothers, and it's 4 of us, and we always help one another. And whenever there's a call for help, they are very responsive. All the more so since construction works, they do construction works. Both of my brothers do construction works abroad. So they're professionals, and now one of them works in France and another one in Italy.
And
those pictures were specifically taken to inform the guardian so that they wouldn't have any claims and issues whatsoever, and that we needed to have her agreement with the works that we performed.
And in view of these photos, I have a last question to you. Can you claim actually that you fulfilled your obligation to take care of it, because the apartment was really in deplorable condition?
Pozele acelea au fost făcute și vă explic.
Those pictures were taken for the following reasons. So I would like to explain why things looked so badly in those pictures. In the hallway, there was like a closet close to the ceiling, and we would keep their empty jars. And it was we talked to the guardian, and we consulted as to whether she agreed with getting rid of that closet because it smelled like mold. And that's where the pictures are from, because of the humidity, mold formed, and that closet was made of, well, not wood, but that sort of a material that is, I don't know what it's called. And so we got rid of that closet that was like right up under the ceiling. And then the other thing that we agreed about, there was a leaking pipe in the bathroom, and we asked for her agreement. Did she agree? I mean, we asked if she agreed with us changing the pipes, and everything was rusted, and it was always leaking, and we often had neighbors coming over complaining about it because it would be leaking into the ceiling of the neighbor that was under our apartment. So that's why indeed the apartment was in a particularly bad condition. And there were also pictures from one of the ceilings in the room. So there was one room that we didn't take pictures of because that was a dry room. There was the bedroom. You could actually sleep there. But the other room where there was the ceiling was leaking, you always had to wait for it to dry and then to take the plaster down and replaster.
And the cost involved for those repairs in that period, who was paying for these costs? Was it you or your daughter or daughters, or was the owner at that time paying for it? Who was paying for that?
Un aport a fost al meu și a fiicii.
It was myself and my daughter. That's when I helped them out. I contributed to it too.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone having any questions on this issue for so far? If that is not the case, then we have to now move into closed session because we will now continue with the hearing of the person that you have asked to appear this afternoon. So let us briefly interrupt the proceedings and also an appeal to the public to switch off so that we can organize the hearings in a closed session. I will wait until we get the green light for the continuation of the hearing in closed session. My question to you, Mrs. Buzu, was you just asked for the your closing statement to be done in closed session. That, of course, is not the practice that we have. So we normally would like to know what is the reason for a certain part of the hearing in closed session. So can you explain why you want to have this in closed session? And then, of course, we can think about whether or not to grant that. But please proceed with explaining why you want this in closed session.
Deoarece în comentariul meu
Because in my comment,
doresc să explic
I would like to explain
cum am ajuns eu judecător.
how I got to be a judge and what was the
Dar în
reason.
acest caz voi
But in
atinge
this case, I
și voi
will
relata informații
touch
private.
on, I will share private information.
Can I, Victoria, please go ahead.
As I recall, the rules require a request for a closed session to be made in writing prior to the hearing. And to the extent that her background and experience she considered relevant for this hearing, I think that could have been brought up earlier. My suggestion would merely be that we go forward with the closed hearing as we have done with with the open hearing for the closing. And if she wishes to submit something in writing to the commission afterwards, I personally have no objection to that, to cover that. But I don't know that we are in compliance with the rules covering closing hearings.
Yeah. And I was actually about to make that same suggestion. Can I have some nodding or disagreement from other members, if that is okay? Then I would suggest that we have continued to have an open session to make your closing comments as far as you feel comfortable to do so in open session. If afterwards you would still consider there are other arguments to be presented to the commission that you would like to raise with us, you can of course do so in writing, and the commission will then determine to what extent it will take that into consideration in our final decision making. But then please, Mr. Buzu, please go ahead with what you would like to and feel comfortable with sharing with us in the closing comments in open session. Please go ahead. You have the floor.
Eu un ultim cuvânt, într-adevăr, am mai mult de spus ca să fiu
I have
înțeleaptă.
more things to say, my last comments, in order to be understood and to be assessed fairly. So therefore, I thank you for the opportunity to have my last comments that I will submit later on to the commission.
Totodată vreau să
At the
relatez
same time, I would like to tell you that this exercise that took place, that takes place,
evaluarea
with respect to the
a
evaluation
fost
was a practice unknown to the Republic of Moldova. Maybe there have been some omissions. My side, for my fellow candidates, when it comes to providing details to the Commission, for the Commission to understand the reality. I mean myself, my reality, my daily life, in order to be correctly assessed. And maybe in the first evaluation, I did not provide all the detailed information, and I hope that during the resumed one, I provided detailed information so that I could be assessed correctly and understood. Respectively, if I missed something or I was straightforward in some explanations, I am sorry, and I hope I did not offend anyone, but I just wanted to speak in comparison and to be assessed correctly.
Vă mulțumesc și respectiv o să prezint deja în detalii luarea de cuvânt, ceea ce se referă la ceea ce am vrut să relatez, în speranța că
And then I'll provide in writing what I meant to say, well, hoping that you will have a look at that and that you will understand what my attitude is towards the work that I do, and that you will understand what are some of the issues that I had to overcome. And I hope that you will understand what I meant, and that I'll be able to exercise my honesty in the work that I do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And definitely, as we said before, please feel free to submit anything that you would like to do so in writing to the Commission, and of course the Commission will assess that material then as well. With that all being said, we come to the end of the hearing today. I thank you for being with us this afternoon and to answer our questions. As you know the procedure, the Commission will now withdraw for deliberations, and we will, as much as possible, strive at delivering a decision within a month after the date of the hearing. I hereby declare this hearing closed, and thanks again for being with us this afternoon. Thank you.